Call this meeting to order. Welcome to the Bloomington Rotary Club's weekly celebration of service for January 19th, 2021. I'm your current president, Ashley Wesley. Thank you for being here. Natalie, please show the flag graphic for 15 seconds of respectful silence. And we ask that you remain on mute and take this time to personally reflect. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Owen Johnson, who will offer our reflection today.
Thanks, President Ashley. In April 1977, I sat down to do an interview at Ann Arbor with Elio Gabbugianni, the mayor of Florence, Italy. Gabbugianni's visit was historic. Thanks to a decision by the new administration of Jimmy Carter, it was the first time since the beginning of the Cold War that an elected communist had been allowed to visit the United States. It was a complicated interview. I asked the question in English, which was then translated into Italian by an Italian consular official. Gabbugianni's Italian answers were translated superbly well by a young University of Michigan political scientist by the name of Bob Putnam. 2 decades later, Putnam, by then at Harvard, published Bowling Alone, based on mountains of data, which argued that Americans were falling away from civic, social, and political engagement and toward an atomized individualism. At first, critics thought Putnam's book was too gloomy, but a decade later, most admitted he was right. Last fall, a 20th anniversary edition came out, fleshed out by some additional data, including material from the study of social media. But a companion volume called The Upswing: How America Came Together a Century Ago and How We Can Do It Again by Putnam and Shaylin Romney Garrett also appeared last fall. At the heart of The Upswing is a simple, powerful argument. The heights of solidarity from which America has fallen since the middle of the 20th century were themselves reached by a steady climb over the previous half century. Maybe because of when modern social science survey methods first appeared, or because of the still powerful cultural dominance of Americans born in the 1940s and 1950s. All of our recent presidents have come from that era, and our next one, Joe Biden. Because of that, we tend to think of mid-century America as a norm. But what if Americans at the end of the 19th century were just as divided as the US is today? The authors show that in the first half of the 20th century, really until the 60s, an extraordinary range of forces in our national life, in their words, shaped an America that was more equal, less contentious, more connected, and more conscious of shared values. It's not by accident, I think, that it was the beginning of that period that Rotary was founded. Since the 60s, write Putnam and Garrett, the diverse streams simultaneously reversed direction, and America has become steadily less equal, more polarized, more fragmented, and more individualistic. So, they say, we need to draw some lessons from the progressive era. A return toward a culture of we would need to involve a restoration of civic ambition directed toward pragmatic, concrete, incremental changes. That means building new institutions to address new problems, and it means paving paths from shared frustration toward accommodations and reform that could endure. It means devoting time to Rotary and similar service organizations and religious and professional groups, and talking less about how things got so bad and more about how to make them better where we are. That means, my fellow Rotarians, that it's time for us to roll up our sleeves and get back to work. Back to you, President Ashley.
Thank you so much, Owen. There are still open dates available if you would like to offer a reflection. You can sign up through the link in the roundabout that'll go out this week. And I encourage you to take just a few minutes to share your thoughts with your fellow Rotarians. Now for the introduction of our guests. Trent Deckard has a guest with us today. Trent, would you like to introduce him?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to have with us, in the vein of civic involvement and civic engagement, John Zodi, a former Rotarian with our club, I believe, who left in 2012 to go off and do some things outside of the community, including working for President Obama's reelection effort, and more recently as our state chair of the Indiana Democratic Party, who will complete his term in March. And he's with us today. And I have asked John to come to Rotary in an effort to try to get him to do some things for our community now. And I'm excited to see him here. So we welcome back John Zodi, my friend.
Welcome. So glad to have you. Jim Bright, you have some guests with us today, I think.
Yeah, thank you, President Ashley. We're pleased to have with us today Don Harvey, who's joining us from the Columbus Sunrise Rotary Club. Welcome, Don. Also, we have with us today Bob Hamill, who was our honoree for the Bloomington Rotary Toast. Bob, always a pleasure to see you. We have some Rotarians with us today, I see on the screen, who we haven't seen in a while, and want to give them a warm welcome. Aaron Brewington with Smithville Communications, Shelley Yoder, Matt Stitzinger, and Marcus Whitehead. So great to see you all. Back to you, Ashley, and I don't know if I missed anybody.
Kate Lippa's with us again. She's my guest, ongoing and always. Welcome, Kate. So glad to have you. And I think that that's everyone. Did we miss anyone? All right. Well, welcome to everyone. Thanks to our producers, Natalie Blaze, Michael Shermis, Sally Gaskell, Aaron Davis, and additional support provided by Alon Barker. Thank you for making us look good and make this meeting run smoothly. We could not do it without you. And roundabout reporter for this week is Kyla Cox-Deckard. Thanks for reporting all of our activities here today. Birthdays, John Bender, January 19th, today. Happy birthday. And our own President-elect Sally Gaskell, January 22nd. Should we sing? No, okay. She doesn't want us to sing, but in our hearts, we're singing for you, Sally. Happy birthday. And membership anniversaries, we have two. Don Colglazer, 15 years, and Judy Witt, 32 years as a Rotarian. Thank you for being a part of the Rotarians family and your service over the years. We have just a few announcements. Connie Shikalis has joined the HT in a new role as theater columnist. She was formerly the HT's theater critic, so she's going to get a break from having to criticize and gets to move into just telling us about what's out there, what's happening. So congrats, Connie. We can't wait to read your columns. And some volunteering service spotlights we've got. Ongoing opportunities for 40 Days of Peace. My Sister's Closet has many opportunities ongoing. You can contact Sandy, to sign up. Her email is director@sisterscloset.org, or her phone number is 812-333-7710. You can also go to sisterscloset.org/MLK-volunteer to sign up and find all the info there. We also have an upcoming opportunity we'll announce more about next week at our Toast celebration, but we will have some volunteer spots at the Hoosier Hills Food Bank. So look out for that next week. And the Winter Shelter through Beacon is seeking volunteers to bring soup, chili, and snacks, and also to work shifts, especially 8:30 to 11:30 p.m. and 5:30 to 7:30 a.m. If you'd like to volunteer there, you can contact Sue Murphy at sue@beaconinc.org. This will all be in the roundabout for you to access, but we recommend you checking out those opportunities. And now for Happy Dollars. Does anyone have a happy dollar to share with us today? Jim Bright.
Thank you, Ashley. I was happy to hear this weekend from former Bloomington Rotarian Julia Merkt, who you may know, I didn't, but Julia has moved back to Thailand. Julia absolutely loves Thailand, and she is planning to rejoin the Chiang Mai International Rotary Club. where she was a member back in 2017. Julia says the people in Thailand are great about wearing masks and practicing social distancing. And I will give you, or will give to Kyla, her email address to be included in the roundabout. So back to you, Ashley. Thank you.
I give $1 for in recognition of the wonderful letter we received from our president, Jessica Hans, remind us about who we are and what we stand for, and that should prevail beyond anything else surrounding us. Also, I give $10 on celebration of my friend and our Rotarian, Jim, to be elected as leader of our community of the Bloomington City Council. Congratulations, Jim.
Yes, thanks. Raj is referencing the letter from District Governor Jessica Hayne that went out. I think that everyone received that. Very nice reflection and bring us back to center. I'm glad that she shared that. Anyone else have a happy dollar? Sally.
I'm really happy that Shelley Yoder could join us today. She can be here because the Indiana State Legislature is not in session this week. And I'm just so proud of Shelley, longtime Bloomington Rotarian representing us in the state Senate. And Shelley, we want you to please stay safe.
I am delighted to see and host my friend Dennis Gross here today. I met Dennis in 2007, which amazingly now is 14 years ago. So I am very happy to give 14 happy dollars in honor of Dennis joining us today.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I can't see if anyone else is raising their hand or not, so
Raising my hand. I'm raising my hand.
go ahead.
Because I'll see Jim and match him $1 and give $15 to welcome Dennis, because I've been on the Dean's Advisory Council for the Luddy School for quite a while, and he's giving us really great leadership during a very difficult time. So I appreciate it, Dennis. Thanks for being there.
Thank you. You're so kind.
And this is
Can I hear a
Glenda.
16? How about 16?
Actually, I can do that. This is Glenda, and I just came from the History Center where I'm talking with Hillary, who's working on a new exhibit. You know, last year she had the exhibit, she created the exhibit about women receiving the right to vote in 1920, or at least lots of women receiving the right to vote. This year she's working on one about elected women in Bloomington and Monroe County. So look for the information about that coming soon. And while I was there, I found out that there is a new book called The RCA in Pictures, and it costs $16. So I bought one. That's why I'm late, and I'll send the 16 on.
Any other happy dollars to share? Okay, well, with that, Jim Shea, introduce our speaker for today.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, as I mentioned, I met Dennis in 2007 when I was hired at the then School of Informatics at IU. And our offices were basically side by side, so I got to see Dennis in action. Dennis is a Chicago native. He had come to IU to get his PhD in computer science, which, by the way, is not an easy degree to achieve. While he was there, his talent was recognized, and he was hired on the faculty at the then fairly new School of Informatics. Dennis had a gift for working with undergraduates, and in 2008, he was appointed to be Associate Dean for Undergraduate Studies at the school. I learned this in reading his bio. I hadn't realized that he had dual appointments. In 2009, he took an additional role of Associate Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education for all of IU Bloomington. So he had two jobs for a while. In 2013, he went back to one big job. He was appointed Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education for IU Bloomington, and he led a broad range of programs and offices, basically all of undergraduate education at IUB. In January of 20, he came full circle in his IU career with his appointment as interim dean of the IU Luddy School of Informatics, Computing, and Engineering. So that was a year ago, and Dennis took on a major leadership role just in time for the pandemic. And in my view, they couldn't have picked a better person to lead this major school at that time. So this talk today is really two great stories, the Luddy School and Dennis Gross. So let's give a warm Rotary welcome to Dennis. Thank you, Dennis, for being here.
Jim, thank you so much. Thank you all for letting me come here today. I hope that I can share some new information to you, or at least we can look back on some of our history with the school and celebrate together everything that it has accomplished. And I'm really delighted to be here. I'll share my screen in a second. And I've looked across all of the participants here today, and I see so many people that I've worked with in the past here at IU and great colleagues. So hi to everybody, and it's nice to see you all here. It's too bad we're not in some sort of in-person format, but I think this will work well for today. Just a little bit of background. I'll just say just a couple more things about me. Jim is right. I came here after I worked 17 years in the software industry. And then I decided I wanted to become a professor. Before coming back here, I used to run projects in companies and or large scale activities. And I think it's a demonstration the university and all organizations find places where people can really thrive and bring their very best to the table to address the challenges and opportunities. And I think that my experience and career at IU has been fantastic, and I appreciate everything that everybody has done to help students and faculty and staff through our most recent scenario that we're working through, but overall the many years. And as Jim said, I'm an alumni of the school, and I'm pleased to say that. But I'll also share with you, my wife is an alumni of the school. After we moved here, she got her master's in library science. And my son is an alumni of the school as a bachelor's in informatics. And I have another long history of other people in my family coming to IU. So I only share that with you just to demonstrate how unbiased I am with regards to my perspective about the Luddy School and the university in general, and Bloomington as a lovely community. So I'll just share my screen real quick, and I'll just flip through these slides, hopefully without any problem. And I hope I'll leave time at the end to answer really any questions that you may have. I'm delighted, as I say, to be here to talk about the Luddy School of Informatics, Computing, and Engineering. And at that, I'm no longer to use the long words associated with the school. I just want us to be known as the Luddy School. So I'm going to take an approach here. I thought quite a bit over the last month about what I would talk to you about. And I'm going to talk to you about a number of things about our programs that I think will give you some insights into what's going on, but also how we present and how I think about how the school presents itself to prospective students. And so I think the main question that I always want to answer for people is why Luddy? And I would say, as part of my experience over the last really 2 decades with the school, is to answer the question, why informatics? And there's a good amount of history and a great set of source documents that are out there. You can access them publicly. They're still really out there in the Internet Archive. If you go back to 1998 and 1999, at the time the school was really going through its formation process. But I think along the way, the question of, why Luddy, why informatics, I think was a really, thought-provoking question then. And I think I would say today the same thing that I would say then, which is that it's never really been about the computer. It's always been about what you can do with the computer, what problems you can solve with the computer that is essential, not only in business, but in our society today. And so I think that's the core answer to why Luddy. Of course, we're going to have these computers hanging around in some capacity, but seeking out ways to maximize our ability to utilize computation to solve the most pressing problems that we have, or maybe not the most pressing problems, but how do we bring people virtually together? How do we flip a university who's a residential experience to a fully online experience in a couple of weeks? How do we do these kinds of things? Obviously, the technology enables that, and it empowers us to be able to do that. So I'm going to talk about why Luddy. I'm going to talk about our student outcomes, what's happening with our students, some of the degree programs that we have, a little bit about our world-class faculty. It doesn't happen without faculty. And then I've got Jim, you'll probably enjoy this, a little bit of a time lapse to step through our web presence to show you how we presented ourselves over time, which is kind of interesting. So it made me think about my leisure suit that I wore to my 8th grade dance, when I see some of the web pages that we had. Classic. Let me just say it's classic. So really, I think, when I think, and I've been so dedicated and focused on the student and the student experience, I largely have always considered that faculty need to be taken care of, but largely they'll drive a lot of the activity there and signal the kinds of support that they need. So what are we accomplishing with students? What are students doing through our programs, and what kind of experiences do we have? And I think at the heart of one of the strengths of the school is the ability that students have to customize their degrees. I sound a little bit like the insurance commercial. You can customize it just the way you want, just so you get what you need. And then of course our world-class faculty. So let me talk a little bit about this. And I should also say, and I know there are some, at least one or two faculty here. At the undergraduate level, faculty would like to think they're coming because of our really great classroom teaching experience and all this kind of thing. And I'm just here to say, it's really about jobs. It's about students coming for what's going to happen next. They want great activities in the classes and great teaching, but really they want to know what's going to happen next. And I can assure everybody that the outcomes that our students are achieving are really spectacular. 96% of our students have reporting some sort of postgraduate outcome, 83% with some employment, and 13% some continuing education in a great graduate program. So this is really at the top in terms of academic program achievement, and I think we can be really proud of that, and in the variety of places where people are going. Not only are they getting jobs, but they're getting really fantastic, well-paying jobs, which makes a huge difference over time for not only the what you would say the more traditional students coming, but also the diverse students. This represents really societal change, generational change for families, and really bringing people above. Our average is 61,000, really strong. And I'm going to talk here a little bit about how competitive this particular market can be. Where people go This is at our undergraduate population. The graduate population is a little bit different. They're really, we're not in every state in the last year, but the vast majority of them, and a little bit over a third are staying in Indiana. I think this is we have more work to do here on the Indiana side. Obviously, we'd like to keep more than 35%. There was a question that I was asked in the breakout room right when I got here about what's our mix. And at the undergraduate level, it's about 50-50. So we're not keeping the proportion of our students who come from Indiana in Indiana, but this is actually a very good number for technology programs across the state. I think we're doing well relative to other programs in the state, but I think we have opportunity to move forward. And this, of course, is largely driven by opportunity. And I think as Indiana becomes more and more known for its business-friendly environment, that we can bring more people. The completion of the interstate will make access to the airport that much faster, which is a huge decision point for companies thinking to relocate, and then access to talent, which is really what people are interested in achieving. So the student experience, we're quite proud about. I'd say 20 years ago, the importance of representing what you're going to do here in your life as a student was less obviously important than talking to people about what they were going to do in the classroom and surrounding the pure academic environment. But I think we all know now that the full experience at the university, and that learning happens across the board. You're not only learning in the classroom, you're learning through your student organization work. We have a living learning center that is heavily subscribed, and we're looking to expand it, so to support move from 100 students to 150 students, dedicated organizations inside Luddy, dedicated academic advisors and career advisors, a strong connection to experiential learning. We all believe that what you learn in the classroom has to be put into action quickly. And so through internships or through our really unique Serve IT clinic, which provides for student internships, but supporting community organizations with their technology needs. And that's quite a unique offering for the school. We have really in-demand degrees. We now have 5 undergraduate majors. Computer science is, of course, our oldest degree. It predates the formation of the school. We have 2 new degrees that are this year in their first year of offering: cybersecurity and global policy. That is a joint degree with the Hamilton Luger School of Global and International Studies. And then a new undergraduate degree on data science, our informatics degree, and then our intelligent systems engineering degree, which just graduated our first class last year. A couple things I'll say about these. It's really interesting. The informatics, if you look at the overall picture of STEM education, the Luddy School has 40% of STEM students on campus. Of all students studying STEM are in the Luddy School. My objective would be to grow that and become the majority of students studying technology and engineering. But a degree like the informatics degree, which 20 years ago was just in its first year, now is one of the 5 largest majors on campus. And the computer science degree is in the top 10. So we have some really strong degrees that have really strong interest from students. One thing I'll say about the cybersecurity and global policy degree, like the informatics degree, when it was created, this is the only degree of its type really in the country. And so this year we brought in, I think we're running almost about 50 students right now. And starting from a 0 state, That's pretty good. We had something like a 1900% increase in applicants to the program for 2021 start compared to last year. So we're doing really quite well there. It's a very exciting opportunity, and I think if you just have, unless you've been completely sequestered and away from news of any kind, then cybersecurity and global policy, I think, are high in the mind of everybody in terms of how our society is really operating today. So I'm excited to say that we have no duds, that the degrees are doing really quite well. And within those degrees, I think it's really important to note that it's not just 5 degrees, that each of these degrees has ways you can further customize and specialize within the degree. The informatics program, the informatics degree, was always contemplated as something which would connect across and speak to the application of computation to different disciplines. And so in that program, we actually have 35 different cognate specialties that students can choose from. The computer science program has 8, the data science program has 5, and the engineering program has 4. And in addition to that, all programs can add minors from across campus. And I was just looking at some data last Friday, some new data that I had available to look at. Well, we have all of these capabilities. To what extent are students actually pursuing multidisciplinary education? And I can really proudly report 77% of the undergraduate students who graduate from the Luddy School have multiple credentials at the time of graduation. And I think it's not only just, I'm going to say, a propensity for students to accumulate and collect credentials, but it's also a recognition of the connectivity between computing and all the variety of ways where computing can be contextualized. And of course, our faculty, we really have world experts in what they do. They are engaged in and outside of the classroom and are really focused on developing new research. The COVID pandemic has been interesting for a variety of different ways. If I'm going to say one thing, that there's both for our faculty, there's for some of our faculty, it's been perhaps the most productive time of their lives. The number of publications, the number of research grants, and research grants surrounding COVID, I think has been really just skyrocketing. And then for a number of our faculty, it's also the case it's been the least productive period of their time. There's very little people right in the middle where it's just meh. And that's because we have faculty that have young children, and then the impact on their house and their family situation from COVID has been really significant. So it's been quite interesting, but there's been great work going on by our faculty, really across the board, and you can expect just even more great work out of our faculty moving forward. It's been a time economically at the university to have some conservation. The impact on the university from COVID on the overall operating budget, I think everybody can appreciate, has been significant. And yet, in the face of that, the Luddy School, we've been able to hire. We completed some successful hires in the past year. Some of them actually, thankfully, wanted to defer a year, that they were accepted the position last spring, but didn't want to start until next fall. That actually helped me quite a bit just on my operational budget, but that's aside. But I'm delighted to say that we brought in faculty in really cutting edge areas. We brought in faculty at the intersection of artificial intelligence and health. We brought in faculty on quantum computing and faculty on just pure artificial intelligence. So it's really been fantastic. And we have a bit of a slowdown this year. We have one search going on for another faculty member in quantum computing, an exciting new area. And then, but next year, I think we'll start opening up again and start looking for some more faculty. And so it's been very interesting coming on as a dean. You think, okay, a lot of what the dean has to do is work at different levels, work with the external constituency and supporters and friends. On the plus side, I haven't had to wear a suit in I don't remember how long, but that will pick up. We'll get through this, and they'll have a dean that looks more like a dean than just somebody sitting in his home office / bedroom doing work. So 20 years. It's been 20 years that the school started in its first class in the fall of 2000. And I was with it then. I was actually helping in one of the classes, an entrepreneurship class. It's been really spectacular. And then in spring 2002, we had our first graduates, and there were 25 of them. And then this past year, over 600 graduates. So you can see the significant growth that the school has experienced over this past decade, and everybody really has contributed to it across the board at the university, the faculty, the staff, the leadership of the university. And so it's I think really doing well, and I think poised to move forward and take some substantial steps forward and continue to grow moving forward. I'd like to say a couple things about our newest initiatives, which really center around artificial intelligence. We are one of the few buildings being constructed. We have a new Luddy Center for Artificial Intelligence that will be finished this summer. That's just kitty corner from Luddy Hall on the new mind, machine, and brain quadrangle. And I think here, as I've been talking to our faculty and considering as we move forward, about 3/4 of our faculty in the Luddy School have a connection to artificial intelligence. You wouldn't perhaps notice it directly, but they themselves have articulated how they are connected. And it ranges everything from algorithms to user interfaces, to robotics, to social robotics, to ethics. And I think that's really one of the great things in the school, is that we're not going to be, as we move forward with this kind of initiative, going to be focused strictly on one area. It's going to be kind of across the board thing. And you can expect, and my colleagues can expect, as we make postings for new positions, that we may look for a faculty member in a particular, say, research area, but we'll want people to articulate how they are connecting their work to artificial intelligence, and thereby be intentional in how we're growing this particular area. So I think it's very exciting, and we'll see where it goes. Now, just quickly, I'm going to go through and then open it up for questions. A little stroll through time. I was like, okay, what did we look like? Well, in 2000, I'm going to say we look like things. So many people search for information about about programs and systems by looking on the web. And so you could see circa 2000 how we presented ourselves. We had a CD there and a bright glowing wire. But there really wasn't much else, because there really wasn't much else. We had just started. We really couldn't articulate everything that was going on. About 2001, and I apologize, the Wayback Machine, which is really fun to look at sometimes, the Internet Archive, sometimes can't represent. It's not a picture. It's trying to make these things work. So we had the Indiana University Bloomingto School of Informatics and a bunch of now unsupported plugins. So things were changed. things about, the exciting, this story here on the website about receives its state funding. That was the first tranche of $4 million of state, $4.2 million of state funding. And then there was a later tranche of about 14 million that came through as well. And so it's really interesting to think here, and this is where I first joined the faculty in 2001, how we were presenting ourselves. How did we get from here to where we are now? In 2002, we started looking like this, and actually we had this really custom logo that was developed by one of our Dean's Council members through a local, really marketing company. And so you could see how we started to move forward, starting to look about presenting not only news and the vitality of the school, but also trying to highlight and talk about new things and news in general, really being a news-oriented thing. Then in 2010, this was, we were driven by, you notice a couple things happen. In 2002, we were the School of Informatics. By 2010, we became the School of Informatics and Computing. There was a website before this that actually called us the School of Informatics and Computing. I won't go into the dark days, Jim will remember them, of getting faculty to agree upon a new name change for the school. But this actually, I think, was one of my most favorite designs that we had. The idea was to be interactive with it, a little bit of a word cloud that you would poke around on the side. And I think people loved it a lot, except our faculty hated it. So I'll just leave it at that. I won't bring up too many bad memories, Jim. Then in 2017, our look and feel changed on the web, and we became the School of Informatics, Computing, and Engineering. Again, a process with the faculty in recognition of the new engineering program. And you could see, and then we were contemplating opening Luddy Hall. And then finally, in 2020, the Luddy School of Informatics, Computing, and Engineering, and a much more updated site. And we're continuing to manage that around there today. And I'd say that the key thing about the school from the very beginning was to do something different. And I would assert that it has done something profoundly different in the area of computing than most anybody would have imagined. And I think we're only a small set of baby steps along our path to accomplishing the kind of real contributions we can have for the university, for the town, for the state, for the country, and the world. And with that, I'll end my PowerPoint and just open it up to questions. Thank you very much.
I'd be curious to know what role gender plays in the Luddy School. What percentage of undergraduates, graduates are women, and what percentage of faculty at the various levels?
Yeah, actually the school, we have a long history of being intentional about trying to improve the participation in computing of diverse individuals. Women in particular has been a focus of the school for quite a while, and one of my, and it continues to be a focus for me in this challenging time to expand. We graduate about, at the undergraduate level, we have about 23% women in our programs, which I can describe nationally as a good number, and in some cases a great number, but seems to be missing the mark, I think, in terms of the overall population. We can do better, and we certainly will. At the faculty side, it's about 25% women, and underrepresented students overall make about 40%, which includes, for technology, women, African Americans, Hispanic, and other indigenous people, Native American, and also Pacific Islander categories. And at the leadership level, we're about 50-50 between men and women. So I think we're in some areas where we have good representation, in others not as good as we certainly should have and can have.
Following up on, wait. Charlotte, go ahead.
Yeah, my understanding is the woman in charge of artificial intelligence is a woman, that's a woman. Is that true? And we at the Ada Lovelace celebration, she spoke. Who do you want to speak?
Kate Connolly. Kate Connolly is is a professor in informatics and associate dean for research, and she is one of the key leaders of the organization around the artificial intelligence initiative. But she's not the only woman in that particular area. Beth Playley is another senior faculty member that has been engaged in that, as has Selma Sabanovich.
I have a question about where your students come from. How many are in-state, out of state, and international, which is also out of state? And divide or talk about that between the undergraduates and the graduate students.
Sure. At the graduate level, we're probably 80% international. And the other 20% are obviously domestic, and 80% of them are from Indiana.
Wow.
At the undergraduate level, it's more like 50-50 between Indiana residents and non-residents. And of the non-residents, we only have about 5% international students in the informatics program, an area that I'm looking to kind of grow across the board. But that's where we stand today.
Dennis, I'm Raj Hadawi. Thank you very much for your representation. Very informative. I have a couple of questions. We are living in an era where technology prevailing in all our life. And recently we have major cyber attacks on high offices from Treasury Department to big corporation of America. The question which I have, are we stretching cyber attack studies as a research program in Indiana University? And also, are we seeing more students are interested in this field for our future protection?
Well, the answer is yes and yes. We have a very strong research area in cybersecurity, and both at the undergraduate and graduate level, we have strong programs and really strong demand by students. In fact, but I am going to say it's sometimes a little bit too strong a demand. We have if you get into the depths of the technology on cybersecurity, it's extremely challenging and rigorous, and it should be. We shouldn't make that program easy to get through, because then we're just going to have more, maybe not the very best cybersecurity experts out there in the world. And what I think we see overall is that everybody, whether you're a cybersecurity expert or not, contributes to both the problem and the solution. So while the technology to penetrate these systems can be created, it almost always comes back to some human that is the weakest link, and that somehow provides access. And then through that door, then people get access to so much more. So, I think how we can raise the bar for everybody to become more, literate on security, I think is a key challenge for us.
May I ask, what is the goal of the school? You mentioned your overall goal. What is it?
Well, so my goal is to strengthen the school and actually put it on a growth trajectory from a student enrollment standpoint. So right now, over the last few years at the undergraduate level, we've pretty much leveled off. But I actually think we're leaving lots of students from around the state that should be coming to Indiana University that are not coming. And so how we go about doing that. So I mean, you know, as the university, we teach, we do research, we generate new knowledge, we provide service to the community and the world. For me, it's about how do we teach our students, how do we bring more students here.
How does it contribute to the well-being of the world, peace, and better living?
Well, I think that you see that in a way. I don't mean to joke about this, but computers have won. They're everywhere, and everybody is a computing professional. All of you are computing professionals now. You know more about computing than the what we would say the computing professionals from 25 years ago yourselves, because of how accessible the technology has become. And yet we continue to have pockets of the population that do not have access. We have people that are not addressing the accessibility of systems. And so we continue to have to do a great deal of work in order to make our systems better, more resilient, more functional in the world. And I just think it's an obligation. It's not just, well, I think it's about jobs when people are making decisions to come here. It's also about preparing them to be thoughtful about how they go about doing their work, and see that they're not only contributing in ways that actually help themselves and their families, but also are solving, you know, great problems in the world. And I always talk to people about, I have a long history before coming back of working in healthcare systems. You know, it's all about the quality of life. How do you make it better for people in the world, whether it's easier to do your taxes or easier to get connected to entertainment options online, or easier to protect myself in online forums. You know, I think some things are probably a little bit too easy. Access to social media and, you know, options where people are you know, perhaps interacting on there that are less than wise, I would say. But I think that it's clear that in as we move into the school's third decade and the university's third century, that we have an obligation to not only go out and make money for ourselves, but also do good things.
I would just tell people that if you have the opportunity once this pandemic is over, you really need to try and tour this building. This building is just phenomenal. The architect and everything about it is just first class, and it's just one of the jewels of the Bloomington campus.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, it really is. In fact, if there's any one problem that I'm dealing with, there is a problem with the building. It's too nice. And I got to find a way to make sure that Phil, I see you laughing about that one. It's that the students from all over campus are coming to use it in such volumes that our own students can't use some of the spaces. So that's a challenge that I'm going to try and work through. And I'm not blaming I-Corps, Trent, but in fact I am. So there you go.
This is Connie.
Hi, Connie.
Just 10 days ago, Dennis, someone was telling me, you've got to get over to that Luddy school. That thing is fantastic.
Yeah.
So I guess I won't be going.
Yeah. Go. It's open during the day, so you can go in and walk around. And obviously, seeing people is going to be a little bit hit or miss. You'll see somebody every day, but you know, we're not. Most of our classes, the vast majority of our classes, are online. And even if they could be in person, because of the social distancing requirements. Like our biggest classroom, Dorsey Hall, I think holds 126 people normally, but under social distancing, I can put 20 in there. So it's really not usable.
Thank you so much, Dennis.
Okay.
Do you have a few minutes to stay after we close our program to answer any additional questions?
Absolutely do.
Okay, great. In honor of your presentation today, we'll be giving a donation to Beacon, formerly known as Shalom Center, that now has several organizations under their umbrella. And Sally Gaskell, tell us what's happening next week.
Yes, next week we will be celebrating the Hoosier Hills Food Bank and the results of the Rotary Toast. Sarah Laughlin and friends will be in charge, and I'm hoping that we'll get to see Bob Hamill as well.
Yay. All right, Natalie, please share our four-way test. We can say that together and close our program. Of the things we think,
Say, and do.
First
is the truth.
Second
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third
Will it build goodwill and better
Better friendship.
Fourth
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And
Is it fun?
Okay. Anyone have additional questions for Dennis?
Dennis, you mentioned 80% of your students at the graduate level being from abroad, and that raises the question that popped into public notice last year, security. You had one of your Chinese students was arrested. To what degree has that become a serious issue?
Well, I think you can all appreciate I can't really say anything about that, that particular case. I think that we would say that it isn't anything that we are spending a lot of time on and worry, because it's not our, from a decision point, we have applicants. We review them for their academic capabilities. We do not review them for any security matters. We know we have potential areas that have national security impact associated with them. And there may be some areas where students cannot work, and we know about those. But at the time when we bring a student in, we rely upon the federal government for their vetting of new entrants to the country, and I think that's just the way that we need to be. If I think our faculty would start thinking about, is this somebody that's going to be a security risk, I think we would not do that very well at all. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you.